Hello, how are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm looking ahead to Wales, Argentina this weekend. That's where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in Cardiff at that match, and I'm going to get stuck into the team news for both sides, but in particular for Wales. Rees Zammit is going to start at fullback for the first time in an international match. Quite a few interesting bits of selections from Wayne Pivac, so I'm going to get into all of those as well as the Pumas team. Can't wait for this game. Remember, if you are new here, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and drop a comment down below about what you make of this team news, in particular Rees Zammit at fullback for Wales. I think that's a really interesting selection. All right, let's get into it. All right, so Wales looking to bounce back from a heavy defeat to the All Blacks. Argentina looking to continue their momentum after a really good victory against England at Twickenham, albeit England disappointed by that. I'm going to start off with the Welsh team news, then get on to Argentina, although Argentina unchanged. There's less to speak about there, but still some interesting bits and bobs. In terms of Wales, 3 changes from the side that lost to the All Blacks, or 3 changes in the starting 15. Alex Cuthbert has come on to the wing. Gareth Anscombe has shifted to fly half from fullback, so that's why Rees Zammit comes in and starts at fullback. We've got Dan Lydiate in the back row. I will get onto that back row because that's a bit of a throwback in my opinion. And then Dylan Lewis comes into that front row as well. And there's also a load of changes on the bench. Alan Wynne-Jones has dropped out, so Ben Carter, I beg your pardon, gets a start to try and impress. I'll get into all of that stuff. But in particular, Rees Zammit, beg your pardon, at fullback is interesting. First time that he's starting at fullback for Wales. Wayne Pivac has said that they've had him there in training. He's looked good. It's something they have been considering for a little while in terms of shifting him to fullback. So seeing how he'll get on, I think it's going to be really fascinating for 2 reasons. Firstly, and probably mainly because of that kicking game. Is his kicking game good enough to play fullback at international level? It's such a key part of the game now. We know what Rees Zammit can do with ball in hand, so I am excited to see him get on the ball more. I think that will be part of the thinking for the Welsh, is if you put Rees Zammit at fullback, he's going to get his hands on the ball more. Hopefully he can then exploit any opportunities or any sort of space that he gets given. But the flip side of that coin is he good enough in terms of his kicking game? We saw at Twickenham in particular, Argentina are a side that are quite happy to kick the ball away. They'll try and play territory. So Rees Zammit's ability to be able to deal with that and kick back and return fire himself, I think is going to be really, really key in this game. And I'm really intrigued to see how he's going to get on. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm saying, in all honesty, I think the jury's out. I think this is quite a big test for him. Wales are at home, but I'm intrigued to see how he gets on in terms of with putting boot to ball, really. What it also does is shifts around that back 3. So I mentioned Alex Cuthbert comes in on the wing where Rees Zammit was. Rees Zammit shifts to fullback, and then you've got Rio Dyer, who was the debutant last week, scored a try against the All Blacks. Bags and bags of pace. I do think Rees Zammit at fullback gives the back 3 quite an interesting look for Wales, because all of a sudden you've got Rio Dyer and Rees Zammit, who are both absolutely lightning quick, and then you've got Cuthbert, who's come back in. He's kind of had an international renaissance, hasn't he? I thought his international career was probably over a little while ago, but he's come back into the Wales fold, and he gives a different physicality in that back 3. So you've got the speedsters, and then you've got someone who's a big ball carrier. What is he? Cuthbert, 6'6", well over 100 kilos, gives you a bit more punch, a bit more physicality in the back 3. So in terms of the makeup of that, I quite like it. I'm quite excited to see how that works. You would say fullback at the moment is a problem area for Wales. Halfpenny was supposed to start against New Zealand. He got an injury. Liam Williams is already injured. So it is Liam Williams' shirt. So are we going to see Rees Zammit there long term? I think maybe not. It's more just trying to find their options with Halfpenny and Williams out. And I quite like the look of that back 3 in terms of what it could potentially do in an attacking sense. Inexperienced guy though in Rio Dyer. Rees Zammit, who hasn't played fullback. How does it work with probably the less glamorous elements of being part of a back 3 in terms of the kicking game, in terms of your defensive shape and all that sort of thing? But look, I'm excited to see how they go. And you need something a little bit extra to try and unlock the Argentinian defence. They're really well organised. They're very, very physical. Having those threats out wide is always going to be a good thing. Let's hope we see them all get onto the ball. The other thing to mention as well in terms of this, if you look at the Wales backline, they've essentially kind of got four wingers, in the sense of, I know George North has played outside centre for a long time now, but he came through as a winger, played most of his international career as a winger. Alex Cuthbert has then come in. You've got Rio Dyer on one wing, and then you've got Rees Zammit at fullback, who we've always seen as a winger. So that's quite an interesting setup in terms of how Wales have moved players around in terms of North, now an outside centre, and Rees Zammit at fullback. Four guys that traditionally thought of as wingers fit into that back line. I don't know. It's an interesting one to keep an eye on. Let's move on to the Wales back row. Dan Lydia, Justin Tipuric, who's also the captain, and Talupe Faletau. This is a throwback back row, in my opinion, because these three first started together. I saw Russ Petty put this stat on Twitter. The first time these three started together in a back row for Wales, 2012. Which is quite a good stat. It also, to me, probably a little bit highlights some of the issues that Wales are having at the moment of transitioning between the old guard, whether it be Alan Wynne-Jones or Dan Biggar, Justin Tipuric, Talupe Faletau, transitioning from the old guard into the new guard. I think that's a dichotomy that maybe they're struggling with a little bit. I don't know. Wales fans, is that fair? That's kind of my impression when I look at that team. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree. What it does speak about is it's a back row that I think Wayne Pivac is struggling to work out what his first choice is. I think Tommy Reffel would be in there, but he's picked up an injury, so he's dropped out. Justin Tipuric has then come back in, and because he's been given the captaincy, you kind of feel like he needs to start at the moment. We've got Jack Morgan amongst the replacements, who I think gives them something else, particularly his ability to kind of steal the ball at the breakdown. Faletau, we still know what he can do. He gets through an awful lot of work. He carries the ball a lot. He's good in defence as well. So I just feel like maybe the makeup of the Welsh back row, we've seen Aaron Wainwright in recent times. There's probably some other guys that I'm forgetting in there as well. But I think the balance in that back row is something that I think Wayne Pivac is struggling to find on a consistent basis. I do quite like the introduction of Dan Lydia, who played all three games against South Africa in the summer tour. And he was quite suited to playing South Africa because he's so physical. He will try and get you over the gain line. And that's what Wales need in terms of playing Argentina. Because Argentina, I think, have quite a similar style to South Africa. They're really, really physical. They're organised in defence. They'll try and squeeze you. And I think Dan Lydia will help Wales meet that challenge head on. So I like the selection for this game, whether it is the long-term solution for someone like Dan Lydia, who's now 34, he's had loads of injuries. Him and Tipuric and Faletau, not sure on how that back row works in terms of going forward. But for this game, maybe it is what they need. Just finally for Wales as well, Dylan Lewis comes in the front row. Again, the guy who featured on the South Africa tour, impressed against South Africa, and gets another go here in terms of continuing in that front row. Right, I'm going to park Wales just for there. Let me touch upon Argentina. As I mentioned already, they are unchanged. So Michael Cheika, happy with what he saw at Twickenham, unsurprisingly. And it makes sense, really, for Argentina to be unchanged. I think we just know what we're going to get with them. I think Argentina are playing really, really well. But it is kind of a case at this stage of try and stop them. And I know Michael Cheika has played down the suggestion that Argentina would be favourites for the game, saying that no one heads to Cardiff as favourites. Well, New Zealand headed to Cardiff as favourites last weekend and did the job. I think these sides are probably quite evenly matched. I think the fact that Wales are at home maybe slightly gives them the edge, but I think it's a really, really hard game to call. I think it's one of the games of the weekend because of that. I like the back row Argentina have in terms of Juan Martin Gonzalez, Marcos Kramer and Pablo Matera. Was impressed with them on Sunday against England. And it's a side that know what they're doing. They're going to kick the ball away a lot. They don't carry a huge amount. They back their defence. They back their physicality. And then they have Emiliano Buffelli, who will kick over the penalties when they get those chances. And to be fair, the try they scored, that Buffelli scored against England, lovely strike move off the line out first phase. They have that in their locker, but they will use it sparingly. They will use it if the opportunity arises. But other than that, I think they'll look to keep the game pretty tight. And therefore, I think this is a huge challenge for Wales. Their form this year has been really, really poor. I think since they beat Scotland in the Six Nations, where they had that really good victory, since then they've lost 6 of their 7 games. That one victory was the second test against South Africa in the summer, where South Africa made like 14 changes anyway. So it wasn't a full strength South Africa. It wasn't the best side that South Africa could have named. I think Argentina will really fancy their chances of heading to Cardiff and getting a result. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think maybe you give the edge to Wales because they're at home. Hopefully the crowd get into it because their side are up against it. Let's wait and see. But as I say, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing how both sides play. And remember, drop a comment down below. Let me know, how do you see this game going? Who's the favourites? What do you make of the team news? Rees Zammit at fullback. Big thumbs up or thumbs down? Uncertain. I think there's loads to look at this game and be excited about. I'll leave it there for now. As I say, please subscribe to the channel, like the video as well if you are new here, and drop a comment down below. Always love to hear from you. Next videos I do will probably be some reaction on Saturday. I'll try and do reaction, or definitely do reaction to the Wales game. Try and do reaction at other time to some of the other matches happening. Another great weekend of international rugby. And I'll see you in the next one.